70 part A, they gave us an equation x minus 2y equals 4. And they asked us to find two things. They want us to find an x-intercept, and they want us to find a y-intercept. Now this equation is kind of in a weird form. It's not in that y equals mx plus b form, but that's okay. We can still do this because we know some facts about all x-intercepts and all y-intercepts. First of all, they're points. So I'm going to set up my solutions so that I've got parentheses and a comma ready to go for those. And we just talked about this when we were talking about x-intercepts and y-intercepts on a table. What does an x-intercept or a y-intercept always have in its coordinates? There's a 0 in there someplace. We just got to remember which one has the 0 here and which one has the 0 here. So we can kind of think through it. If it's an x-intercept, it must be on the x-axis, right? So if I pick a point that's on my x-axis, like that point right there, where's the 0? Is it the x-coordinate or the y-coordinate for that point? The y-coordinate is 0. So if I have an x-intercept, then the y-coordinate has to be 0. And if I have a y-intercept, so that would be somewhere on the y-axis, which coordinate would be 0 for that point? Well, that'd be the x-coordinate. So I know that my x-intercept is going to be something comma 0, and my y-intercept is going to be 0 comma something. That's true for every x-intercept or y-intercept ever. All right, how are we going to use that to figure out what that other number is? So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to take this equation. Since I know what y is, I'm going to rewrite this equation. I'm going to put a 0 in place of this y here, because I know that the y value is 0 for the x-intercept. So let me write my equation. X minus 2y equals 4. But I left the y out because I know if we're talking about an x-intercept, what's y got to be? Got to be 0. So put a 0 in that spot where the y used to be. And then you got an equation that just has an x in it. We're just going to do a little bit of algebra and solve for x. Whatever we get, that's going to be our x-intercept. So let's do this. Let's simplify this. What is negative 2 times 0? That's 0, isn't it? Does this doing anything at all to the equation? No, we can basically just cross it out because it's just 0. So all we have is just x equals 0. Oh, that's already solved. No, did I say x equals 0? I'm sorry. All we have is x equals 4. That's already solved. We already got x by itself. So there we go. Our x-intercept is 4 comma 0. All right, all we need is a y-intercept now. So let's do the same thing. This time, though, we know that our x is going to be 0. So again, go back and rewrite your original equation. But leave the x out this time. X minus 2y equals 4. What are we putting in for x? Well, if it's a y-intercept, the x has to be 0. So stick that 0 in there. And then we'll solve this. Once again, that 0 is not really doing anything to the equation, so we can just cross it out and ignore it. We've got a pretty simple equation left behind. Negative 2y equals 4. We know how to solve that. Let's divide on both sides by negative 2. And we got y equals 4 divided by negative 2 is negative 2. So that's our y-intercept is negative 2. All right. So the trick to doing 70 is knowing that if you have an x-intercept, there's a 0 for the y. If you've got a y-intercept, there's a 0 for the x. So what I'm going to ask everybody to do right now, unless you've already done this, is to do part B. Let's get it done. For those of us who didn't get a chance to do the assignment, let's walk out of here with this problem completely done. We're going to do the same method that we did just a moment ago. We're going to remember that for our x-intercept, it's going to have a y-coordinate of 0. And for our y-intercept, it's going to have an x-coordinate of 0. So just rewrite that equation, putting 0 in for either x or y, and then solve for the other thing. Get at your intercepts. So let's go ahead and take care of that right now. Let me know if you have questions. I want to see everybody working and finishing this problem here. All right, let me catch up to you all here. Take that 0, plug it in for y. It just goes away. Were you guys able to get those 2 intercepts? Anybody have any questions on that one before we move on to 74? All right, 74 was kind of tricky, so thank you for asking about that one. There's not a whole lot to write down here for 74. We've got A, B, C, D. We just have to match up the equations to the graphs. I am going to write the equations down. Y equals 1/4 x plus 4 for A. Y equals 1/2 x plus 4 for B. Y equals 2x plus 4 for C. And y equals -2/3 x plus 4 for D. I'm just copying those straight out of the book, which I got in front of me. And then we just need to match each of those to one of the graphs. So next to each of these, I'm going to write a number of one of the 4 graphs here. So they're giving us an equation. They want us to find a graph that's going to match it. Before we do this, what do you guys notice about all 4 of those equations? They all have a +4. And so what's that mean we're going to see when we look at all these graphs? Their y-intercept is going to be at 4. Now, what's weird about this problem is when I show you these graphs, it might not look like all the y-intercepts are at 4, but they are. So this one looks like the y-intercept's at 4, doesn't it? 1, 2, 3, 4. But does this look like the y-intercept's at 4? It kind of doesn't, but when you look at the labeling, when you look at the numbering on this, you got to look carefully and ask yourself the question, how much is the x going up by? If it's so 2, 4, 6, right? So it is at 4. All right, and then what's really weird is how much for the x is going up by. So 0, 3, 6, 9, 12. You're going up by 3. Oh my gosh, this one's going to be tricky. Yeah. Negative 2/3 x plus 4 for D. All right, so I'm going to start with 1 and see if I can match it. So this one's pretty straightforward because it looks like if I look at these numbers, it looks like each box is representing 1 unit in both directions. So what's my rise over run here? If I go from this point to this point, I'm going up by 4 over by 2. So my slope would be 4 over 2. 4 over 2 simplifies to what? That would be 2 over 1 or 2. So we want the one that's got a slope of 2, which is C is the one that's got a slope of 2. So number 1 goes with C. One goes with C. We're going to do this one next. Now, this is weird. When I look at this, I'm going to look at these 2 points. My rise is how much? We said this is going up by 2, so I'm going up by 2, 4. Up by 4 and over by 2 blocks, but each block is 3, so over by 6. So up 4 and over 6, and it's negative. Actually, that one's the easiest to spot for me, right? Because there's only one that has a negative slope, and this is it. So D must be number 2. All right, let's see what they're going to throw at us next here. Let's look at number 3. So this has a positive slope. So I would probably look at this point here and this point right here, my 2 intercepts. How much am I rising from here to here? I'm going up by how much? If this is 8, that must be 4. So I'm going up 4 and over from negative 8 to 0 is 8. So up 4 and over 8. 4 over 8, what does that simplify to? 4 over 8. 4 over 8 is 1/2. So that's B. B is the one that's got the slope of 1/2. And then by process of elimination, number 4 must be which one? A. Yeah. All right. Thank you for asking about that. Those got tricky when they threw those weird scaled axes at us, didn't they? That's not something I'm going to do to you on our test. That's 2 weeks from Monday. That might be on the second chapter 2 test, but we'll keep it a little bit more simple for that first one. All right. Are there any other questions from our assignments? And thank you so much for asking about those couple. If you do have some individual questions, we're going to have lots of time today. So let's